Welcome back to Dynamic Character Productions, covering DCP All Stars, Rites of Passage. And this is a special one because we do not have our exit queen, Lilly, here, but we do have almost all the hosts. So it's me, it's Ian, it's McKenna, and it's our third member of the jury, Ashley. Ashley, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to finally get this scheduled and to kind of talk about my game.
All right. Well, I have all of Lily's questions. I will be asking everything she wants to know. So let's start off with the marooning. You're the only returner from Erik. Did this change the way you went into the season? Because obviously you'd probably assume that someone's going to be there from my season, maybe Garrett. So how did that change when you see you're the only one?
It didn't change too much. I think my relationship with the people in Erik, like I had a few, close relationships, but generally I was at the bottom the whole time and kind of floating along and trying to make it. So I don't think I had anyone who like was going to be a big negative on my game. I also don't think that there was too many people who would have been like a huge positive for my game. I kind of came in with an idea of how I wanted to play, and I think it would have probably been similar, aside from a few tweaks here and there, depending on if that person, if I swapped with them or merged with them or that sort of thing.
But you're not without any connections. So you have Karen on the cast, one of your good friends who you went to her wedding. You've also briefly met Corey at that wedding. I was there, Carrie was there. But what were your thoughts now with like an IRL friend in the game?
I thought it was really good that Karen was in the game. We're like you said, we're good friends. I knew immediately she was going to be on the other tribe because I knew you guys weren't going to put me on the same tribe as her. So I was kind of concerned, like she's a winner coming in. So what are the odds that we're even going to get to play the game together at all? And I know we've talked about playing games together. I'm on her production team for her game, and so I know she thinks very similarly to me in a lot of these things, and I thought it would be a great duo. I also really liked that like it's it's not completely secret. Like there was pictures on the Instagram page, and like I'm an admin on her org page, but it was probably a lesser known connection, and so seeing Corey there was a little bit concerning because I from seeing some of the games that Corey's played, thought that there was probably a good chance that he wasn't going to keep his mouth shut, and I was generally right in that assessment.
So now some people did their research, some people did not. Some people were right in the middle. Where did you fall on the DCP fandom coming into this season?
I would say I was somewhere in the middle, closer to maybe more. I mean, seeing some of these exits, I think I did more than a good chunk of people, but maybe not as much as Lex. So I just have a lot going on in my life. So I've seen most of the seasons when they originally aired, except for I think the last two seasons I hadn't. So I watched those, but I didn't have a lot of time. So I watched them at like between 1.5 and double speed, depending on, I'd sped up the challenges and stuff. So I was able to watch them and at least get introduced to all the people who were playing and some of those relationships. I probably participated in like 50 to 75% of the little quizzes that you guys put out and that sort of stuff. So I wasn't like really, really digging in, but I was paying attention, and I did intentionally like try and make sure I knew who I might be playing with.
Yeah. So we see you thrive this season, especially pre-merge. Everyone on your tribe feels close to you, but not in a threatening way, like with others. Do you think the long game format worked in your favor for making all these relationships?
Yeah, it's interesting because like my first game with you guys was a mini, and I think I did a pretty good job at that mini. But I also think that like the circumstances of that game really put me in a position that fit with my play style for minis. but really I suck at like I'm not a mini person. Like I need time to think things through. I need time to build relationships to and the style of game that I play, like even for this long game, like I was getting no sleep because I need to like build I need a lot of one-on-one conversations. I need to spend the time to like build that trust. And so yeah, I think the long game format portion worked fairly well for me. And thankfully it wasn't so long. Like I was, it was 7 days, so it was 7 days of lacking sleep, but it's nothing, I've been through worse. So
Yeah. So did you feel that target outright in the tribe? Because Lex was like, everybody's saying my name because I'm this social butterfly, but they were also connecting you with Lex. Could you feel that within your tribe?
yeah, I knew fairly early on that I was being connected with Lex. I wasn't super worried about it. I felt like those kind of things come and being aware of them helps a lot. I think I just focused on building like all of the relationships and spending I tried to do a one-on-one with everyone in my tribe every day. And I don't know that I succeeded with everyone, but I got in the vast majority of people, one-on-ones, and then still doing group calls and things like that. So yeah, I recognized that was happening, and it was something to be aware of, but frankly, I wasn't super concerned about it. And I don't think, we'll go through obviously the whole game, but I don't think that was a huge issue for me in the game. Although there was one round where it was a little tricky. So
Yeah. So, did you feel like you started to become in more hot waters as your allies like Lex and Shea got voted out at the merge here? Or were you trying to hope that like Karen and Kylie could further your relationships in the game and help you through the mini portion with those who you hadn't met yet?
yeah, that's exactly what I was hoping. Like I tried to set up, and I'm really proud of how I set up my game going into the merge, where I had a lot of different, relationships and a lot of different options. And so I was concerned I would not have chosen the boot order of Lex and Shea going out first. That is like definitely not what I would have wanted, but I didn't feel like I was like inherently out either. I thought that Karen and Kylie, were the kind of a group that I had wanted to work with anyways. And I would have wanted to go further with them than with Shea and Lex. So I was hoping and thought that that relationship would kind of carry me a little bit further than it did.
So we have original Ignis and original Fumo. Where were your lines of who was working with who? Because, we see Maddie, Austin, and Simmons working as a tight duo, but then, Karen and Andrew are also part of that original tribe, but they're working with you and Kylie and Garsow because of the swapped Ignis tribe and Osa tribes. So where did you see those like quote unquote tribal lines going into the merge?
So I mean, I felt like, there was sort of a group, me, Shea and Zucker, like kind of made this group. So I was thinking that Shea and Zucker would be kind of working together to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Lex and Garsow, would be working together. And I felt like Kylie was going to be working closer with Lex than obviously, like at all. And that wasn't the case. So I was wrong there. I knew Karen would want to work with me. I did not know about Karen and Kylie's relationship. So I was kind of hoping to, kind of stay somewhere in the middle and allow like Lex and Garsow to kind of go at Shea and Zucker was my hope. And maybe I could kind of, float in the middle with Karen and with Kylie, and kind of we could maneuver it that way.
Yeah. So as like Lex and Shea got voted out, did you feel a momentum shift into like one power versus another?
There was a shift. I think that the shift though was towards Maddie, Austin, and Simmons is the shift that I was feeling, which is why you can see me in the episode where I go really starting to be like, okay, we like are we just going to ignore the fact that there's a group of three who've been basically, like, from my perception, working together this whole game? Like, are we just going to pretend like that's not going on? That doesn't seem like that's good for any of our games. And so that's where I really saw the shift of power going at that point.
So we see you mention that in the episodes of, this three is kind of being together, but we see you say that in confessional. And you're kind of the only person to state this at this time. Do you think, had you had said it to someone else, like Andrew, Kylie, Karen, or maybe, Zucker, it might have caught on and might have gained more momentum, and we might see, one of those three out in your place?
So I definitely talked to people about it, but I was too late. Like, that was the problem, is it was really my boot round where I started like bringing it back up again. Obviously we had talked about it at the merge with that giant group of 8.
Right.
Then, shit hit the fan and we had a few votes, and I when it got to the vote where I ultimately went is when I brought it up to Karen, to Andrew, to Kylie. And in retrospect, I think I should have been continually pushing that through the merge, from Lex's boot to Shea's, whatever was going to happen. I think it was good to vote with the majority if I wasn't going to sway anything, but I think I needed to keep kind of injecting that in there. And instead I kind of sat back because that's what worked for me in Iriki, and that's really the mini that I was successful in. So I just sat back and was like, it didn't push as much as I should have. And that works in a game when you're, maybe playing from the bottom, is that you don't have to push any individual person as hard. You can, I'll be your number, I'll help you. But in my position, I needed to push that harder and sooner.
Yeah, because you did have some agency coming into the merge, and I think you still had some, even if, when Shea and Lex were leaving, you could have tried to pull on Zucker, but Zucker is part of this Exile Boys alliance. Was this something that you anticipated? Because we kind of don't see a lot of people talking about the Exile people that are left. And that was a long game, that's where bonds were made. So did it seem like they were separated because, you stayed with Zucker the entire time? Or was there a way, do you think, to prevent the Exile Boys getting together?
So let's see. I mean, I clocked that Austin and Simmons were going to be working together. And I figured Andrew was going to do the thing. I mean, Andrew's another one who I've seen some of his games, and I see him wanting to kind of have a couple different directions and float in the middle. And I think that's kind of what he did. Like, I think that's the direction he was going, because I think maybe he was reading some similar things to what I was reading, which is like, that's where the power was sort of shifting to. And so that's where he kind of floated towards. So but I didn't think he was like going to ride or die with that group of people. Zucker was one where I was less sure, because I knew that relationship was there. I knew that he played with that on that season with those people. But I was honestly, I really thought of more that could be more of a, if anything, an advantage for us. And that's part of why, like, Karen was working with Simmons, Zucker could potentially be working with Simmons. And so I'm like, okay, so then if we were to get rid of, Austin or Maddie, then maybe that can be a number that I can work with at a certain point. So I wasn't super worried about it. And I knew some of the relationships in the game, but I really didn't make it like, I didn't put a ton of weight on it. And I think I was able to do that partially because I came into this season as like the only Iriki person, which allows me to potentially, be a number for a group like that if we get to that opportunity. So
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the challenge where you went out. So this is a multi-stage challenge and you're allowed to bring people along with you. Did you read into anything when Karen chose Austin M to move forward, when you or Kylie were options to be brought to the next stage, especially considering he wins the whole challenge?
I read into a little bit, but I sort of didn't expect Karen to pick someone who she was close with, because I feel like that would be kind of putting your cards out on the table, maybe more than she wanted to do. I think basically very few people knew anything about Kylie and Karen's relationship, and a few people knew about me and Karen, but I don't know how much everyone knew. At a certain point it became clear, especially in that episode when she was like, I'm not voting for Ashley. But yeah, so I don't know. I think I didn't think a ton about it, except for that I sort of just figured she didn't want to show her cards. And that's fine. Like I don't count on winning. There's only one individual immunity challenge that I count on winning in a DCP game, and that's if we get to a wall sit at the end of the game. My game is very much predicated on the possibility of that challenge being there, because I can bring a big threat bar, and I have the confidence that I don't want to be cocky, but I think I can beat anyone in a wall sit, even someone like Karen, who I know is really good at it. So that's the only challenge I would count on winning. The rest of them, I assume I'm going to lose and try and figure out how to succeed regardless.
What about plank?
I think I could do good at it
now that she knows. I mean, I don't know. Stage 2 of this challenge, we actually took from Wota, from your tribe, of the blindfolded dice feel. So did you immediately recognize this?
Oh, yeah.
So how do you think you would have done in stage 2?
I would have done great on stage 2. I mean, I did really well with that one when we sort of broke that challenge in our season. So I think I would have done great at that part. I have no basis to have any clue on how I would do it stacking cups by inflating a balloon. So so I don't know how I would have done there. And I won a challenge in my season, and there was another, there's some I think I could have won that I didn't try as hard as I could have. So it's not like I'll never win those challenges, but I just don't count on it. I try, and it's more of my social game that's gonna get me where I need to go.
So as you're scrambling, did you realize or know that Austin M was the person pushing your name during this round?
Yes, because Karen told me, but I didn't know otherwise.
Okay.
I'm not surprised, because sort of a running theme with me and Austin is that we just we didn't talk game any chance that we had. Like the first round when we were on the same tribe, like I did my one-on-one talks with everyone, and Austin and I were the last on the tribe to connect, because neither of us, for whatever reason, reached out, and that's a two-way street. That either one of us could have done that. But I was frustrated because I tried to talk game, and his response was like, well, that's too much. We don't need to talk game. Let's talk about what's your favorite alcoholic drink, or what's your favorite movie. And I'm like, well, that's great, but we have a vote coming up. We don't need to be a final two, but it would be nice to talk about where your thoughts are on and where my thoughts are and where this game might go. And he wasn't playing ball. So it was smart for him to push my name, because I wanted him gone. So I'm not surprised that he did that.
When Maddie asked Austin and Andrew if they were voting Zucker, you kind of see Andrew seem unsure, and there's a physical reaction to them saying your name. Do you think had he pushed back, another person would have gone? Do you think Andrew was one of the more pivotal people in this in your vote out?
It's hard to say. We've talked about it, and Andrew insists that he probably would have still voted me out regardless of, if he thought that the votes would go that direction, he wanted me gone. It's hard to say, because you can say you have an assessment of things in retrospect that isn't always the same when you're in the moment. he would have been a pivotal direction that would have helped me. That said, I don't think it's impossible that it's hard to say what if Kylie and if Karen had pushed harder, like what a Maddie might have done, and what Simmons, if this connection with him and Karen is like, how strong is that? Because I know he's close with Austin. If Austin's really pushing and it becomes a push and shove, I don't know where those numbers end up either. But I know I did have a really good, like, just honestly mostly personal chat the night of the merge with Maddie, and I feel like both of us are really similar people. Like, she does a ton of running outdoors and I do a ton of hiking, and so I think that there's a possibility that if there was some pushback from people, like sort of the numbers that I thought were mine, that it could have gone differently. But it also might not have. Like, it's not a guarantee. There's a bunch of sort of variables there, and it's hard to say what someone would do in the moment.
Yeah. So, what's your reaction to Karen sticking by you, and saying like she has a soft spot for you and doesn't want to vote you and doesn't, but is kind of okay with you leaving at this point? She's like, I can't stop it. She's trying. So, like, what was your reaction to kind of seeing Karen's personal thoughts throughout this episode?
Yeah, I think, like, if I were, knowing I was playing with Karen, if I sort of knew if I were to go and Karen was in the game, that's sort of how it would be handled. Like, I think generally speaking, she was trying to avoid voting for me, and that's the same feeling I had for her. Like, Karen's one of the few people I felt I would lose against if I were in the final three. And so there wasn't a world where I was going to, like, intentionally let her go to the final three with me. But I would have much preferred not to have to vote to be involved in that, and to have everyone else say that, and me say like, oh, I didn't vote for you because we're friends and I don't want to vote for you, but also, like, it's a game. In terms of, like, again, it's unclear to me whether she could have fought, like, whether there's more she could have done to keep me in the game. So it's hard to say as far as that goes. Like, she should have pushed harder. I know for sure, like she said, it was better for her game for me to stick around than for Zucker to stick around. So so I know that it was like she was doing what she thought she needed to do, because you also don't want to push really hard and have it not go through, because then you're left, kind of having drawn some lines and going against some people. So I don't have any, like, strong negative feelings about it. I recognize she's playing her game, and that's what I would have expected. So
that was all of Lily's questions. I'm just gonna say the question that I had for you. Brett was one of our was originally on the cast, the winner of your season. So my question for you is, if he was on the season, how would you have navigated him being in the game? Because you didn't necessarily work against each other, but didn't necessarily work with each other.
Yeah. So Brett was like if you were going to ask me to put money on who was playing this season with me for Mariki, my money would have been on Brett, given that Erik's on production, and that, like, there's probably a certain number of winners that you guys are probably trying to get in a couple winners probably. So I thought about how it would go with Brett, and the challenge for me with Brett is just that I can't read him at all. And I think my thoughts are exactly what your thoughts are, which is, like, to what extent would we work together? To what extent would we not? I think realistically, like, you guys would have put us on opposite tribes, so he would have been on the other tribe.
He would have been with Karen.
Which, who the hell knows how that goes? So it's like, what happens from there? But I think I certainly would have tried to work together if there was like if he swaps in Andrew's place, or if we end up in a swap together, or if there's a merge and there's some way to, like, incorporate and help each other out. Then I wouldn't have, like, been like, oh, I need to get Brett out. But I still would have thought of Brett as, like, a player that's just tough for me to read what he was going to do. And so that would have been a little bit scary for me. So I wouldn't have had a problem cutting him if that was necessary for my game.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, we can take it over to Facebook.
I was gonna try and make a B, but I don't know how. But that's an F. All right. First questions from fellow castaway Kiley Kelley. Ashley, you have such a calm and reassuring demeanor, a true threat in any game you play. It was a pleasure playing with you and getting to know you. What is your biggest game regret from this season?
I mean, I feel like Kylie's asking this question knowing what the answer is because I've been so vocal about it. Which is that, like, I think my biggest mistake was on that merge night in particular, like not having me and Kylie did a video chat for like 15 minutes. We didn't talk long one-on-one. Like, I think my game goes tremendously different if I make that real effort to connect with Kylie and make it clear to her that, like, I genuinely would have taken Kylie all the way to the end. Like, Kylie was on my radar for final 2 or final 3, like the person who I would have wanted to take with me. And if I had made that clear to her, then I guess my hope is that she would have shared the relationship that she has with Karen, that the 3 of us could have sat down and like really planned it out. And then who knows, she insists that this wouldn't have happened, but I think maybe we push off the Lex vote a few rounds if she has the comfort of knowing that, like, I'm 100% willing to cut Lex. In fact, I said Karen I wouldn't take to the end. Lex is the other person who I'd be nervous taking to the end as well. So it's like, if we could have done that, and maybe pushed the Lex vote back a few rounds, then, you know, I just think there was a path that might have been better for me, and we don't know what the outcome is. Obviously, Kylie and Karen are still in the game, so we'll have to wait and see. But I feel like from my perspective, when I'm leaving, I'm like, I feel like that would have been better for all 3 of our games.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Next is Michael Zucker's question. Do you think revealing to Lex about our secret code with Shea and the sequence of events that followed, or your strong social game or personal bonds, was more of a factor in you being targeted and ultimately voted out? So I guess the secret code or your game itself.
All right. So a couple things here, because I feel like this code has been dragged throughout all of the, like, you know, reviews in the Sunday show and all of that. I want to say I recognize it was not a good code if you think of the plan as purely being an ability to communicate. I think there's some utility there. I think you can, in a very small number of scenarios, use that code to communicate. But I think in terms of building trust amongst a group of people, that it was actually really good. And I was the one who came up with the code, and I was the idiot who decided to blab about it. But Zucker and Shea didn't say anything about that code to anyone, as far as I know, and probably wouldn't have. And so I think that talking to Lex about that code in particular, but also to Karen, who told Kylie, who got, you know, that was more evidence that I'm never going to go against Lex, because I told Lex the code. So I think that was a mistake in my game. And when I was voted out, like, I thought that was the mistake in my game. But I think in looking back at it, I don't think that's why I was booted. I think that just made my path harder. I think that it's hard to pick one, because I think the 2 of them, I think it's that set me up in a really hard position. And then the fact that I had sort of this, you know, I was pretty out there as a social threat, made it so that it was hard to come back from that. But I guess that's a cop out because I'm picking both. But so I don't know. I'll go ahead and say the code was worse, but
normally I think answers like that are cop outs, but I think you're right. I think you already had the social game set up, and then everybody kind of was aware of that, and then once the code comes in, you're kind of already
out there, and then make another thing to push you forward.
Yes, exactly. And to be fair, that was like a night with 0 sleep and several glasses of wine, and it was not a good decision.
All right. McKenna had the next question, but she asked it already. So let's move on to Luke, fellow castaway from
Not
Trinity
fellow.
Falls. Well,
It's not a fellow castaway.
I just meant from DCP.
Oh, all right.
He's a castaway, not fellow. He's an unfellow castaway from Trinity Falls. Ashley, you are so fun to watch. Your authentic self is loved. Agreed. If you could pick one pre-juror to go on a trip around the world, who would it be and why? I'm guessing he's talking about DCP or from this game specifically.
I'll assume this game. So, pre-merge,
Great question, by the way.
yeah,
We
I would
got
say,
Lydia, Danny,
right.
Corey
Corey, Jeremy, and Mike, and Sarah,
and Brittley.
and Brittley. We got a lot of people here.
I think I would go with Lydia because I haven't, like, of all the people I've spent. I mean, there's a couple, but I didn't play with her. I didn't play with her in this season. I didn't play with her in a previous season. We have chatted a little bit. She seems like it seems like we have some stuff in common. It seems like she's like a fun person, and I think that it would be kind of cool to go on a trip around the world with her. So I would maybe surprise some people and say Lydia.
I love that.
Yeah, very, very bold to pick someone for a trip around the world that you haven't actually spoken. But I get it. I get it. Next question is from a fellow castaway, just not on this season. Jay Mulligan. Jay says, Ashley, I just want to say our journey as friends has been so amazing. You have been such an amazing friend. I really enjoyed watching you play this game as your true, authentic self. It has been such an honor to watch you go through this journey. You are a great inspiration to LGBTQIA+ people of all ages. Also, such an amazing supporter of PFLAG. You also made your Erik family proud. Now for the question. If you had to combine 2 seasons of Survivor, one from seasons 1 to 20 and one from seasons 21 to 40, twists included, to make the perfect season, which seasons would you pick and why?
Wow.
All right. I'm just gonna start by saying, like, screw you, Jay, because Jay told me not to read their question, and then they give me like a technical question that actually would have helped a lot to prepare for. So even though I love you, Jay, like, Jesus.
Yeah, that's a hard like thing to not read. I was like, okay, she's had a couple days to prepare here.
I read it in practice for not missing anything.
So I didn't read. So I'm assuming, just based on the context and our conversations, that they mean the perfect game, like if I were going to play it and not watch it, not just watch it. Jay knows that I hate twists in Survivor. So of course they made a point of like including the seasons after 20 where there's always twists, because like my cop out is like, let's just go with like Africa, because the big twist
Only
is
you were on Sahara Dunes, man. You would have had a great time over there.
Exactly. I'm like, Africa, it would be so cool to go play a game in Africa and like with all those animals there. And like the big twist of the season was that we're going to have a tribe swap. So I can work with that. That's doable. After 20, gosh, I don't know. They all have twists in them, but I'll just go with like probably my favorite post 20 season, which is Cagayan, because there's plenty of twists in there, and one twist that I hate, but other than that, it's fine. I can work with that.
So a brains, brawn, and beauty, Africa.
Yes,
Whoa.
exactly.
Let's see it.
All righty. Next question is from Andrew Denson. You are a lovely person to get to know in this game. Literally had to put my head down to avoid tearing up hearing you give your speech on the way out. Keep doing your thing and hope to cross paths one day. Then he frantically said, hope to get the question in time, and then wrote his question as if that cut time out. What is your favorite stoner comedy? If you don't have a favorite stoner comedy, answer me this. What's a movie you love that most people shit on? So stoner comedy, and then I guess
or
I guess this would be like pick for underrated movie or underappreciated movie.
Yeah, so I think my answer is actually the same, and I recognize that this movie. I use the analogy of food, which is like there's a great steakhouse and then there's McDonald's, and I recognize that this movie is a McDonald's of movies, but I still enjoy it, which is Grandma's Boy. It's like a stoner comedy. It's everyone seems to like it gets dragged all the time, but for some reason I watch that movie and I cannot stop laughing the whole way through. So that's my pick.
Cool. Yeah, I think most stoner comedies would fall under the fast food movie category.
Because you get high and want fast food after too.
Well, you want fast food during or before
True.
and after.
Yeah, all of the times.
All of the times.
All right, well, Andrew, great question, and yes, you got it in plenty of time, 48 hours ago. So, next question is from your world travel partner, Lydia. God, I wish we got to play this game together. God, why? Yeah, of course, and I was rooting so hard for you. What's on your org bucket list that you haven't accomplished yet?
I mean, I guess winning, that would be a really good one, but that's also super obvious. And I don't know, I've got so much stuff going on in my life that there's a type of game I'd love to play, but I don't know that I'll ever have the time again in my life until like I retire to actually do it. But I would love to play like a super realistic Big Brother long game that's like this, 79 days or 80 days like the actual show is, because I'm better at long games. I know Big Brother, even better than Survivor. I love that game and I think I would do well. But yeah, I don't see myself having 79 days to devote to a game at any time in the foreseeable, like several years. So
yeah, it's a long time, Big Brother. Next question is from Austin Garsow. Ashley, I'm so glad we met and I had so much fun playing this game with you. Considering we both had to get rid of Lex sooner than we would have liked, I'd love to hear more about your plan for the end game. Who did you see yourself moving forward with, and who would have been in your ideal final three going into the merge? So I guess he's first asking who was your ideal final three going into the merge, and then maybe what was your plan after Lex's vote out? I think that's what he's asking.
Yeah. Okay. So my ideal final three going into the merge was, I was thinking of maybe, like I said, kind of playing these two sides against each other. So I was thinking like maybe Kylie and Zucker and myself as a final three going into the merge. But again, like my play style was to give myself a lot of options. So like, depending on the scenario, it could have been Shea instead of Zucker, or it could have been Garsow instead of Kylie, or, that sort of thing. I was not wanting to take Karen or Lex with me. I felt like confident I could do well if I pitched my game properly against anyone other than those two. Once Lex left and things sort of got hairier, I was thinking that if I could find a way to go to the end with Garsow and Kylie, that would have been a really good combination for me. So that's kind of, we're talking ideal. That's probably ideal after everything went crazy.
All right, next question is from Maddie Millsip. Ashley, my goodness, you beautiful human. One of my most cherished calls this whole game was the one we had on merge night. The space and time you held for us to get to know each other felt so special. So thank you. In this round, you were gunning hard against the OG Ignis 3. Why do you think this failed to gain any traction? And looking back, do you think you should have 1, leaned harder into targeting them, 2, steered clear of it entirely, or 3, something else?
Not 2. I definitely not 2. I think harder, but more importantly than harder, like earlier is the thing. Or, harder, sure, but really more. I needed to continually push that, and I needed to be the one who was saying like, "Hey guys, remember we were gonna do this? Like, how about we take care of one of those 3?" In my case, ideally, it would have been Austin. Like, but whoever it is, like, why there's a group of 3 let's not ignore that. And if I had been pushing that earlier, maybe it could have, it might have, people might have picked up on it and ran with it.
All righty, Maddie, there you have it. Next is from Stephen Bays.
Fellow Ricky Castaway.
Fellow Ricky Castaway. Ashley just wanted to say it was a blast seeing you play again. You are an amazing person. Do you think being the only member of your season hurt or helped your game? Also, can you give one reason why I should keep watching now that you are gone? So you kind of talked about the first one earlier. I guess if you had anything else to add, and then Steven wants to know why he should keep watching.
So I think that it was pretty good for me. Obviously, it always depends who the other person or people are from your season, but by and large, it was good for me. And I think almost everyone on the season recognized that too. Like it wasn't a novel thought for me to be like, oh, it's actually good that I'm not. Everyone pretty much mentioned it. Why you should keep watching? Well, there's a few reasons, but I think that without spoiling anything, the end game is exciting in this season, and I'm still on the jury. So that means I'm going to still be in the last episode, and it would be kind of weird to just skip a bunch of episodes and come back for the last one. So you might as well watch all of them until you get to see me in the jury.
Exactly. Come on, Steven, you know better.
I have a feeling Steven is going to watch anyway, but that's a great answer. If I was, I would keep watching too.
Exactly.
Next question is from an unfellow Castaway / prod member, Greg Langstine, who stole one of my questions. Gregory. All right, so Greg, bitch, you pick one person from Ear Ricky and one person from a different DCP season that you wish was on All Stars. So my guess is this would just push the cast to 20 people. So you would just add one from Ear Ricky and one from any other season of your choice.
Sure. So I think maybe my Ricky choice will surprise people, which is I think some people might think that since
there's
Jay
one
and
correct answer, Ashley. Come on. There's one correct answer.
that my first boot?
Yes.
No, that is the wrong answer.
I mean, that would have been fun. And I think that even though I was responsible for her going, that she still would have been open to working with me. So that's not a terrible answer.
My mom was rooting for you the entire game, so no hard feelings.
Yeah.
But your actual answer, yes.
Yeah, your actual answer now.
So my actual answer I think is Celestina. Because Celestina and I worked a little bit together, but she still ultimately was part of the reason that I left. So maybe that takes a little heat off of us. She's a very loyal player. We haven't talked a bunch, but we're connected on social media, have had a few, comments back and forth. And I think that, again, you're assuming we'd be on different tribes. So I think it would be, if we get a chance to reconnect, I think that we could help each other out and that it would work out really well. So Celestina from Ricky Island. And then in the entirety of it all, I think there's a few different directions I could go. And this one's it's risky, but it could pay off, which is former host Lauren Pratt. Might be an interesting one. She has a lot of connections, obviously, having been in production, so I wouldn't be the only person, but I'm fairly close with Lauren. She would be a huge sort of target that would be in front of me. And I would like to think that we could work together, although like I said, I also recognize the risk of that, which is that there's probably 7 or 8 other people in the cast that feel the same way. So
if not more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there'd be a lot from this crowd. All right, next novel here is from Lex. Bear with me here. Ashley, my fellow popular girl, spelled Gurl, Cheetah Sista, and my actual number one. Yeah, I know you have heard that before. Ellipses and parenthesis. In all seriousness, looking back on the season and my time playing All Stars, this experience would not have been half of what it was without playing with you. I am so thankful we started on the OG Fumo tribe together and shared many laughs and strategy talks together. You called me a beautiful light. Well, honey, I got news for you. I tried to do my best, Lex, there. Wasn't very good. You are the most beautiful rainbow, filling this world with so much hope and color for everyone lucky enough to meet you. You are a fighter who never lets anyone stand in their way. I know you will never stop fighting, and I admire that so much about you. Keep on keeping on. My questions are, what is something you would do differently if you could go back to the OG Fumo tribe before the swap? And then the second question is there anything you would do differently in the swap tribe before the merge?
Well, first of all, I guess I love you, Lex. Lex is one of my, I think Lex and I will be friends for a long time after this. So thank you for all the kind words. I don't think there's anything major I would do differently in either case. I think that there's little things like pre-merge I would have spent more one-on-one time with Kylie instead of me, Lex, and Kylie, which is what a lot of our calls were. Again, to build that relationship with her and make sure it was clear to her that I wanted to prioritize her in the game. I don't think I made that explicit enough throughout, so I might have done that. But I really think that's the biggest hiccup in my game was not making that clear to Kylie. And aside from that, I feel really happy with how I came into the merge. I don't think there was a lot of stuff that I should have done totally differently. I could have tried to be under the radar. I think this cast is too smart for my style of game to if I need to connect with everyone, and if I'm connecting with everyone, then everyone's going to know I'm connecting. There might be a few secrets here and there, but so I don't think I could have toned that down much. I think really it was the only thing I could have done was do more work, put more work in on Kylie and make it clear my intentions with her.
All right. Last question from Facebook is a fellow Iriki Island castaway, Garrett. Ashley, I am so sad to have to write this to you. Queen, people have already asked who from Iriki you would want on this season, so I'ma flip it. Who from Iriki were you believed to not see on the cast day one?
Well, I can cheat maybe and just be I was really happy not to see anyone from Iriki because I felt that was good for me.
No.
I'll give a real answer, but that's the most accurate answer. But it's not I think of all the people, the one that made me the most nervous is one of the ones we already talked about, which was Brett. I don't think having Brett in the game would have been inherently bad for me. It's just tough when you can't read someone, and so that would be the one that made me the most nervous. But I don't think there was anyone from Iriki that was inherently bad for my game, so I'm just going with the one that would make me the most nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Can't believe you did not pick Connor Rita. Who wants to see him again? All right, well, before I hand it back over, hey, Greg took one of my questions.
Well, sort of. Yeah,
No,
never mind. You can't replace anybody.
I can't replace anybody.
Yeah.
That was going to be my question. Okay, let's see.
The Mount Rushmore, or are
Yeah,
you trying to think of someone else?
Here, while you're thinking about it,
Oh, sure, yeah.
I didn't have a chance to post it on Facebook, but you know it's coming. It's me, Mr. Positivity. Give me one positive thing you take away from your All-Stars experience.
Sure. So like everyone, the broad answer is the relationships that you made, but to hone in on that and be more specific, there's no secret about my story, and having come in my first season, and I was going through some stuff and I was figuring out who I was, and I came in this season as my authentic self, and what that allowed me to do, there may have been game implications to this, but that wasn't what the goal was, which was I was able to have some of the most deep personal connections and conversations with people, and with so many of the people on this cast. And I think it's something I've recognized throughout my transition, which is by sharing this part of myself with people, and by sharing what I, thought for years was like the deepest, darkest secret that I had, that level of vulnerability and showing that allows other people the space and like the comfort to share their own vulnerabilities and their own personal stories. And so like there's so many people in this cast that I got to learn really personal things about, and I got to share my story with them. And I think that was really powerful for a lot of us, for myself and for them. And I think that it's something that I'll take away and never forget, and was really, really positive. So
yeah. Alrighty, and do you have questions?
Yeah, well, I still have the first question, and then the second question just escaped me again. But first question is the same as for everybody. I need your Mount Rushmore of DCP people prior to Survivor All-Stars.
Sure. So I'm gonna go with the one who started it all, our original winner, Karen. So I'll put her up there. I think that these Mount Rushmores have been severely lacking in a Ricky Island representation. So I'm going to put Garrett on there as like that incredible, chaotic, coming from behind sort of play that he didn't win, but God, I don't know how he got as far as he did. It was incredible. Then I'll go with since she's not here, let's go with Lilly. I think Lilly had a great game. She did really well. She has the type of game that I like, which is a sort of social, little bit like not completely, but a little bit under the radar, where it's like not, people are underestimating you maybe a little bit. And I appreciated that game. And then because we have to have, someone representing the people who do the thing I can never figure out in these games, which is finding advantages. I'll put Lydia as the idol queen as in the fourth spot.
All right. Awesome.
Cool. It still escaped me. I just can't.
Are you done?
For some damn reason, I should have just typed in the damn Zoom chat.
All right. So we always end our exit interviews with the same question of sum up your game in one word and why.
Sure. So of course, like the other regular questions, I thought about this one, and I think the one I want to use for the analogy that goes with it is butterfly. And the reason is that I went through my first season. I was the caterpillar. I was like under the radar. I was, not very, big personality, but I still managed to like sneak through and get pretty far in that game. And then, I kind of left for a little while and went in my cocoon and came back and was a butterfly, a social butterfly. I was myself. I am so proud of the social game that I played, because this is my first game playing as my authentic self, and I didn't know how it would go. And so like to have it go like from a social perspective, for me to play such a strong game in that way, was really validating and meant a lot to me. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with butterfly.
I love that you picked butterfly, because as you were like preambling to it, in my head I was thinking, what would Ashley's word be? And I was thinking butterfly, and you immediately say butterfly. I'm like, yes, there we go.
Great minds think alike, but so do terrible ones. So we'll see where we fall on this.
I think that every time someone says that. Also, I remembered my second question.
All right, everyone.
It was my question that I used throughout the entirety of Monte Carlo. Up to this point in the game, whose game has either, we won't say impressed, because like we said, you did your homework. Whose gameplay this season surprised you the most, and why? Up to when you got booted.
I think I would say Garsow, Austin 2.0. I think he is one who's like very underrated, and probably because he's a quieter player and it's easy to overlook him. And I think the game he's been playing is really good. I think he's at a point where he's in a little bit of danger, but he's shown that he can win things, and we know he still has this legacy advantage if he can make it to a point where he can use it. So I think Garsow is the one that surprised me the most in this season.
Well, before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you for trusting us with your story and being able to tell it on a social media platform. So we just want to say thank you for playing again. And I knew kind of from your first interview that I had with you, I was like, oh, she's here. So I was surprised you went out as early as you did. So I'm gonna blame it on the code as well. But I want you played this game for a specific reason, a different one than all the rest. So I'm just gonna give you a second to plug.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me this platform. I played this season for PFLAG in my local area, so the Roaring Fork Valley, and so far I want to thank everyone who's been watching and who has donated, because it's been very helpful. We were able to throw a party for the kids with that money, and we decorated a banner that we used in a parade and are going to use in some of the upcoming Pride festivities. With all the kids got a little square and they got to decorate it, and we still have some money left over, so I think we're going to go do a movie night with all of them, and rent out a theater and have popcorn and all of that stuff. So it means a lot. If you haven't donated and still would like to, you can. If you go to www.pflagrfv.org and click on donate. And again, feel free to reach out to me. I have done my initial $200 of matching, and I'm not super rich, but I will match an additional $100 if anyone decides to donate at this point. So
the link will also be in the description of this video and many other places. So if you find it, you can click it. All right, Alex, take us off.
Well, as McKenna said, I'll reiterate, as much as you are part of DCP's story, we appreciate being part of yours and you feeling comfortable and safe in our environment, because that's exactly what we want everyone to see. Is we love everyone who wants to play our game. Our community is one of the best that there is. That's not even a humble brag, it is a brag. So we are forever thankful that you are a part of our community. But that does wrap up this exit interview. So if you've been watching all this time and you haven't been subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to the end of our video where you have all the links to our social media, and go follow us there. You'll know when all of our stuff drops. We have our episodes every Monday and Thursday, exit interviews as we get them. And of course, our Sunday show with John David Millsip. We are Dynamic Character Productions, and we'll see you next time.